Hi there, I'm Ashley with Cool Kids Knit, and today I'm going to go over with you the difference between circular needles and straight needles, how to hold your yarn and needle so it's comfortable for you, and what a gauge is and why it's so important. First off, circular needles. These are personally my favorite to work with. However, everybody has their own preference and it's okay whichever one you prefer. However, I will say circular needles offer a lot more flexibility and ease in your knitting process. Here is an example of a blanket that I'm working on with circular needles. So you can see the benefit of having a long wire connecting the two. It helps so that the stitches don't come off of the needles and it's all nice in one place. Hi, I'm editing this video and totally forgot to mention the most important distinction between straight needles and circular needles. Circular needles offer the ability to knit in a round. Straight needles are for flat work. Think about scarves, blankets, things that you're working back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Although you can do that with circular needles also allow you to work in the round. So if you're making a sweater and you're going around and around and around the body, you have to use circular needles for that. Just popping in to say that, forgot to mention. When it comes to holding your yarn and your needles, a lot of it is going to come down to preference and what you're comfortable with. Once you have been knitting for a while, it starts to become automatic and your hands just start to do what they're comfortable doing. So the way I'm going to show you how I hold my yarn and needles may not be comfortable for you or may not be your preference, and that's totally okay. So I will demonstrate with the blanket that I'm working on right now how I hold the yarn and needles and what works best for me. So this is my working yarn, which means that this is the yarn that I am currently working with and that's creating all of the stitches here. So when I hold my yarn, I like to wrap it around my middle finger here and kind of give it a loop, and then the top goes over. This is how I hold it. Like I said, there's many different ways to hold it, but this is just what's more comfortable for me. That's how I hold it. Now, there are two different types of knitting styles, Continental and English style. And basically it just comes down to the way that you're holding your working yarn. The way that I knit is English knitting, and that is just because that's the way that I was taught. A lot of people do Continental and say that it's a lot faster. So it's a preference thing, whichever way that you prefer to learn. I'll show you both Continental and English style. First, the English style. So with English style, the working yarn goes around the needle like so, and then you pull through just like that. And I will show you Continental style. So with Continental, the yarn goes on your left finger, and instead of wrapping the yarn around your right needle, you just pull it through like so. So you take the yarn, kind of gets stuck. You can tell I don't normally do Continental because it's difficult for me. I'm not used to it. But this is the difference between Continental and English style. Now let's discuss the importance of swatching and what a gauge is in knitting. So a gauge refers to how many stitches in row in a square inch of a knitted fabric. Let me explain. When you're following a knitted pattern, you will see a section about a gauge. And the gauge will say something along the lines of, in 4 inches, you will have 18 stitches and 20 rows, something like that. What that basically means is within 4 inches, like I have right here, you will have a certain amount of stitches. And this number will help you determine sizing and if your piece will fit you, how long it will be, stuff like this. So I'm going to count all of the little V's that I see right along here. Do you see those? Those are all stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, about 16 stitches in a 4-inch square. Now let's see how many rows we have. Again, I'm going to count the little V's that I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So I have 22 rows in the 4 inches of the square. The reason why finding your gauge is so crucial, especially when you're making something like a sweater or cardigan, is because you want your gauge to match what the pattern says. And the gauge can vary. So if you knit tight and your tension is tight, or if your tension is looser and more relaxed, your gauge might slightly be a few stitches off. And you want to account for that when you're making something like a sweater. So if you knit looser and your stitches are looser, your piece will be bigger than what the pattern describes. I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. Otherwise, have a great day. Happy knitting.